This
Here.
conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Brian. I'm sorry I didn't return your call. Got lost in the messages over the holidays. I didn't dig it back up again. So we have some outstanding meeting minutes.
All right, I've got the minutes from December 17th, 2025. 2 pages worth submitted. Have you read it? And
Any
if you have
chance
any
they're on
changes?
this? I didn't have any changes.
I did not put them on the drive. You did not get a chance?
No, I didn't.
I was gonna say, we
I
can
have no
wait till the
comments.
next meeting to.
I have no comments, and I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, I'll second.
Hold on, I need the date.
Oh, December 17th.
December 17th, 2025.
Hearing no changes or additions, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we've our minutes. We're doing. Do you have any outstanding minutes from the last time we met?
No.
Okay. I don't really have any opening comments except for the fact that I know we're really trying to put in some time to get things done here, and I appreciate that.
Okay. I stuck in here a discussion with Brian as chairman of the finance committee onto the amended agenda.
Was that the next item on the agenda?
Yes,
Okay.
to discuss the roles and responsibilities of us versus the people that are actually moving money or suggesting that we move money.
Before you even start, I thought it was a great idea when you suggested that the two committees work more closely together in the future. So I think that's a really good idea. And we can figure out what that means later. But the idea that we have more awareness of each other, I think is a good idea.
Agreed.
My thought went a little bit beyond that in that, we've got a huge pile of requests in front of us, and we know that the requests that we have grossly exceed the amount of money that we have at any one instantaneous moment, i.e. for fiscal year 27 as an example. We don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars for us to be able, as a town, to be able to implement. And so our committee, even though we prioritize everything, I think we end up, in my mind, and what I'm worried about is we end up getting swayed between prioritizing what we realistically can afford and then kind of stopping and saying, well, this list is already at $2 million. We don't have that. Why go any further? If there is, though, in that list, items that should be carved out and bonded or whatever, so that a $2 million project becomes $50,000 a year for the next 18 years. I think in my mind that it has to influence how we prioritize the list, because we can afford $50,000 a year for the next 2 years, but we can't afford $2 million. And so to me, it makes sense to get guidance, I think, and get some other thought process on taking multiple items that are related and that could be considered as a single bondable or a single fundable elsewhere type of item, and kind of remove it from the detailed discussion of, for fiscal year 27, should this item be a priority number 1 or a priority number 3 type of project. So I think it's more than just working together. I think it's getting guidance from the FinCom.
You can go first. I have a feeling you're gonna say what I'm thinking.
Well, go ahead.
That's
my opinion.
I completely disagree.
Okay.
I think we need to work with them to, when we're done, to work with the finance committee so they have an understanding of the projects and they can look at what the best way to finance the projects are, whether it's bonding, whether it's anything else. But I think our charge is to, at some point, hopefully in 3 years, maybe it's in 5 years, We know that Belchertown should be spending $3 million, $7 million, $11 million a year on capital projects a year. And maybe some years we only spend 3 and some years we spend 5 because they're bonded. It's kind of like at your house. You're supposed to spend 3 to 7% of your home value every year on maintenance. Well, what happens is some years your furnace goes and you spend way too much, and then other years you only do. But our job, I think, is to track all the capital projects that are over 20,000 and then prioritize them for then the committees to decide. And sometimes they may come back and say, hey, we're bonding this. Is there a project you think that fits into a bond? Maybe that's after, we've gone through that. But I worry right now I even worry that many departments are making capital expenditures out of their operating budget. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be happening or it should happen. I'm just saying it is, and we should know about it. Because then there's the chance to maybe bond some of those projects. And maybe it shouldn't be in their operating budget, but if they don't know there's a continuous stream of capital to fix things up, I think departments are going to continue to keep money in their operating budget over on the side to take care of some of the smaller things. And I'm a believer that they probably need to, but I sometimes think I don't think we know. And one of my struggles, I think, is these first couple of years, we're going to kind of have a ballooned, not only capital plan, but then there might be some money that departments are expecting to pay for themselves that are going to be in their own budget. And that's why I believe we should work strongly with the finance department so they get the understanding of what the projects are and when they're going to get implemented so that they can look at ways. And they may come back, they may turn around and just say, hey, we're going to bond $5 million. We think it's these 3 projects. And maybe they ask for our opinion, or between the select board and Steve and the departments, it comes up with that. If it's not a single department that's bonding it, then we can help settle or make advice on that. But I think really we're trying to develop it from a true need standpoint across all departments, regardless of how it's funded. That's my opinion.
Yeah, if I can just inject, the original intent of the committee was to look at a year's worth of requests from a lens of money isn't a problem.
Right.
Which projects are priority and rank them in order. Last year that worked very well. A list came to me and I basically took what we had for funding, which was 500,000 out of the override.
Mm-hmm.
And then the select board and the finance committee agreed on a certain portion of money out of free cash. And I just went up the line, project 1, project 2, project 3, till I ran out of money. I think there needs to be communications between the 2 boards for long-term planning. Because, yes, we need to start borrowing. If we don't, we're gonna fall behind.
Yeah.
We need to know what the future holds for capital needs. But I wouldn't want this board to get bogged down on, well, how much money do we have? So let's prioritize based on that. Because that's gonna influence your decisions and it's gonna be biased in that.
Well, what I was going to say is that this was put in place as an adjunct to everything that was there between the FinCom and the select board. And the idea was that there had to be some sort of group or body or whatever committee identifying need and not cost per se, and not prioritizing in terms of cost because of cost, but prioritizing in terms of need. And I think that that's our key function. And I think that actually makes the job of the selectmen and the job of the finance committee different than it used to be, but stronger, in the sense that they're going to have a vetted process by the time they get the information they need. And that vetting is what's important about what we're doing. And that therefore, even if it's grown to $25 million, we know where we're at and we know what needs to be prioritized. And I think the idea of there being good communication between FinCom and us is great. I don't think advisory is the way we do it. We're advising that these are the priorities. You're saying, yeah, we can do this, we can't do that, or you're going to lump 10 projects together or whatever. That's great. And if this makes that easier for the finance committee, that's even more better. So that's my technical word for the day. That's even more better. But in the end, I think that we're actually meeting the role that we were defined to meet, and that's what's important.
That's absolutely true.
I would have 2 other comments. I would think That's why the multiple years, I think, are also important, because it's, a lot of communities do a larger bond, 5, 10 million. And if that's the case, you're gonna wanna add some of the bigger projects from the second years to get them in the queue to start working on them. So the finance committee may come back to us to do reshuffling. And I do think the only time we're taking financing into consideration is when it's an outside, when the department project has outside funding that's not coming from the tax base of Belchertown. Let's say the roof project gets 80% funded by the MSBA. We've only got to pay 20%, and the window is in 2027. We're probably gonna make the smart choice and say that's a higher priority because the funding goes away and we have to spend 800,000, $1 million instead of 200,000 if we wait another year. I think that would be the only time.
Does it work in the other direction? That the funding from the state of 80% is available, but only 5 years from now. So we say, well, put it off.
We can anticipate, sure.
I think so. I think Eric, brought that up at the last
Do we
meeting.
move it down to a lower priority?
Yeah.
Because the funding, external funding isn't available right now.
It's good we train Brian up for the role that he's in, absolutely. And then the other thing I was gonna say is I really appreciate the fact that you had the thoughts to reach out and say, look, we should talk. And I think that was absolutely the right instinct, so.
Let's hear from Brian.
Well, last month in December, we actually discussed this. It was part of our agenda. I believe Rick is already reaching out to come back. I was going to, but on our first meeting, where we decided to step down and nominated me as chair. So I didn't think it was appropriate for me to be the chair of that and come back and be a member of this committee again. But after hearing Steve give his town manager's report last, the 5th, the select board meeting the 5th, talking about the influx of capital projects with the school department. I just thought it would be a good idea. The last thing we want to get, I mean, step back a little bit, Steve and Jill are probably talking about this quite a bit, as because, he's in the loop, but we're not in the loop. We don't see the applications that are in front of your committee. And I hate to wait until a tri-board meeting in April to get all this. And they'll probably have it all figured out by then for the most part, but to start it a little bit earlier with the committees might be.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, definitely. I think so.
And
Particularly to see the bulk that's coming down.
From a planning standpoint, it makes sense.
Yes.
and
Yes.
admittedly, during the first year, we felt a little bit like the orphan child, right? We was there, but not part of it. So therefore, the more inclusive we can make this decision-making process, the better off we're all gonna be.
Well, then let me ask you, what, between now and the tri-board meeting, what information would you like to see flowing in what direction?
Are there any immediate need projects that require a funding source immediately, whether it be bonded or whatever? I mean, the finance committee has to.
I'll turn this on you guys.
Has to advise at the annual town meeting, and I would hate to find out a week beforehand.
So what if we set something up whereby during the budget evaluation cycle, and therefore we're in the loop evaluating capital projects, there's 2 times of the year set up where capital committee and FinCom meet to talk just about what's going on, what they know what's going on, so that there's information going back and forth. So there's an intentional date on the calendar to talk to each other without being rooted into what each other is doing in the detail, the day-to-day mechanics, but just to sort of check in. I think that would be of great value.
That would be great. That's the whole reason I reached out. Yeah, something like that.
So, I can give you an example of something that's gonna be coming up, that your information would be helpful. We're gonna be probably in the next 2 weeks talking about free cash.
Yeah.
We know we have $1.43 million in free cash. Somewhere around 50% of that's gonna go back to the operating budget. That other percentage is gonna go into our savings accounts and capital. So that conversation is probably gonna happen on the 26th. It's probably awful tempting for people to say, well, do we really need all that money for capital? Can we use some of it for operating? Can we put some of it in? So if your information was,
Right,
this is what we're looking at for FY20, even though they're not ranked yet,
preliminary.
at least they could say, hey, wait a minute, we got a pile of stuff here. No, maybe we should put more money into.
Right.
But that's a decision that's gonna happen really quickly.
Yep.
So your feedback to them would be important. But I think if the finance committee reported back to you and said, oh no, you only have $100,000 to spend, work it out. That's where I start to get a little queasy, because now you're looking at all those requests saying, well, I don't want you to do that. I want you to think that there's unlimited money.
That's not,
Okay.
that's.
Do you happen to know anybody who we can go contact to get in on that meeting, just so we know?
On the
If we
27th.
can be put on the agenda for just to report in or something, that would be great.
Yeah, we could put that in as a.
We're meeting right before that. next
Well,
Wednesday.
actually, what I'd like-
Next Wednesday again,
Yeah, we're meeting next Wednesday,
which is still before.
but that's to get input from the department head.
I know, but we also will have an updated spreadsheet that we, at least your year one is, almost everything's on there, I think.
Well, I was just gonna say, the point of today's meeting, before you got in touch with us, before it was just for the three of us to sit down and make sure that we had everything that we needed in front of us.
Right.
So, and based on that, we could say right now, if my numbers are correct, that I believe there's $1.6 million worth of capital
Mhm.
for fiscal year 27.
Mhm.
And based on, and that's based on pushing out $250,000 to next year, and then another 4 million somewhere else. And that 4 million are the big ones of the roof, the tennis court, the bleachers, or whatever it is.
And that's the information that we need. So I think the first decision is gonna be the free cash, and then we're gonna start talking about how money's being allocated, and do we borrow?
Yep.
You know, do we have money to borrow, or are we doing an override for borrow? You know, those are the questions that are gonna come up.
So,
So, yeah, we need that
do,
information.
$500,000 will get you at 4%, an $8 million bond in 20 years. Right in that area. So.
go ahead.
So the whole residential for having you meet and develop this list is for, for one thing, that we didn't appear that we're cherry picking what projects were going on, but more importantly, that we had hard data, rather than going with a gut opinion about free cash, for instance, that we had data in front of us that could help us make that decision based on the data, and that would come out of this group.
Mhm.
The interesting thing about last year, because I was obviously very much involved, is the department heads came in here, or the main department heads, and being a collaborative process, they really worked for the best interest of the town, I think. The schools, the DPW, and said, well, we really don't need this right away. We need this, but I understand they don't have that. We can use this we can buy this out of our operational funds. And to your point, and it seemed to be a much better process than the way it used to be. When everybody would come in to a big meeting and fight for every penny they could get and claim that the sky was falling if they didn't get it. And understandably so. I mean, every department that has to fight for all the funding they can get, that's their job. But to Lisa's point, I think that, and I said at the last meeting, I think this is the most transparent money spent in this town that comes through this committee. It's vetted in every way you can imagine before it gets turned over to the select board.
And I think as part of the budget evaluation process for Belchertown, knowing what we have and what we're gonna need to find money for, so one way or another, is critical to the entire decision-making process. So you're not making decisions in a vacuum and we're just, or as you said, people are just competing. Of course, there's a lot of things that are busted and need fixing in town. We all know that. Question is how to prioritize. And then the other thing that this is gonna really facilitate is that lumping and bunching of jobs that need to be done so they can be done in an affordable fashion and a timely fashion for the sake of the town.
I hate to say this in a public meeting, but I think what we need to track is how many purchases are being made from operating funds.
Yes.
And look at that as how we move forward with recommending the budget in future years. If 5% of operating budgets are being used for capital, we should maybe
That's what you were saying.
really seriously.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of concerns me. It's like, I joined Costco 6 months ago, and so, I was looking at my food bill saying, oh, I spend this much a month, and I wasn't putting Costco into it. And when you add it back in, my other bills should be going down, right? My Stop and Shop should be going down because I'm going to Costco, but you gotta look at that from a budget overall. You can't just say, oh, well, I decided to buy steaks at Costco, and they're not going in my weekly grocery budget at Stop and Shop. So, yeah, that does concern me, but as long as the information is in this report, and then it decides it gets funded some other way, other people are gonna be able to look at it and say, the Finance Committee might say, hey, we've been approving 500,000 a year. How is 1 million getting done? Because, people are taking it out of the operating budget.
Right.
And so it's a hard thing, but you would hope that at some point that gap gets smaller and the capital budget raises and the operating budgets get reduced somewhat for the capital that they're.
Right.
I mean, there's a few nuances with that. First, capital is defined by our policy as anything over 20,000.
Yeah.
So all departments have money built into them for smaller repairs. So we have to be careful about that because we can't take that away from them and have no way to fund those small projects.
Right.
And the other thing is capital is defined as non-reoccurring, one-time expenses. So for example, the last time the DLS came in and did it out in Belchertown, well, not the last time, 21, they said they wanted our computing department to be set up in to have a way to replace computers, like a 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing 20% of the computers a year, every year for 5 years. Well, that could be, somebody could look at that and say, well, that's a capital expense, but it's not, it's reoccurring. So it's built into the budget. So we have to be careful how we talk about that because we want to make sure that we acknowledge that, a reoccurring expense, even if it's over 20,000, that it's an operating expense.
Right.
Kind of like the police department with vehicles.
With vehicles. Yeah, some departments' vehicles.
Right. Some people buy a vehicle once every 10 years, like the senior centers will for a van. Others are buying 2 vehicles a year. Well, that's a reoccurring expense. It doesn't technically fall under capital. So we just need to be careful about how we talk about operating versus capital. But you're right, we have to make sure that we're not funding big projects through operating budgets. It should.
Yeah, we also do this once a year, so you've got to be able to leave. There's got to be something in the budget for people to take care of emergencies, smaller requests, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I think you've been accepting requests over 10 because we don't really know what we're doing yet.
Right.
At some point, we are going to start probably go to 20, yeah.
So the ones over that are 10 would go back to the departments?
Yeah, if we can adequately fund them, but in the past we haven't, even though there's capital built into some budgets, there's not enough to cover those $10,000 to $20,000 projects, so we've been just pushing it here for now.
But on the other,
Well, you don't want to miss 3 10s that should be a 40 and should get bonded.
Right.
Because then departments could be breaking up
Right.
projects. And
so I think we need to go back to what Brian said earlier, which is one of the really valuable roles that this committee is providing is that transparency or that whole thing about discussing the projects. As you pointed out many times, Michael, about how we have to prioritize in accordance to need and not anything else we've heard about, but that this is a need of the town. So I think this helps reinforce that in a big way.
You're looking for information flow from us to you, is what I'm hearing. And I think that's an easy thing for us to periodically say,
Yep.
here's a snapshot picture of everything that we are aware of and working on, et cetera, and here's the total dollars, and, you know, we can break it out however you want, by department or, you know, Ford versus Chevy, it doesn't matter. But here's the dollar value that we're looking at for 27, for 28, and then in the oncoming years,
Yep.
the dollar value that has been identified so far.
Probably when you get your first, or maybe not your first, but you know, but your priority list, when you start really
Yep.
narrowing it down, take a look at that, because some capital projects can be bonded, some can't. Like, you know, vehicle purchases and stuff like that.
Well, the list we have now is 90% there, right? So,
Unsorted, unprioritized,
Right.
and anything is just raw data.
right,
We don't even know if they're even capital projects. They're just,
everything,
this is the incoming flood.
right.
Here's the 40 things we want to get done. Maybe some of them don't even fall into capital. But we do have that. And I don't know if that's too preliminary of the information that you're looking for.
It's the first year, I mean.
I think if you say it's 5.9 and 1.6 million and 245, I think those are real numbers that people can put their hands around and say, you know, this is a big problem and this is something we have to keep working at to solve.
Because, I mean, we're not vetting the numbers.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that is really, I mean, your process is to ensure that the departments.
So which boards are meeting on the 26th?
So that's going to be the finance committee, select board, and school committee.
Okay, that would be a good time to report in there.
Yeah.
So I can throw just a quick
Oh, sure.
CIP update on the agenda.
I love that idea.
Give you
As a matter of
2
fact.
minutes.
2 minutes is great.
I'm good.
Although, room for questions.
Yeah, 3 minutes for questions.
I love that.
2 minutes, yes. Really?
I guess he just left the scene.
CIPC.
It's about 40 seconds of.
I always call you CIP.
Okay,
Oh, I thought it was
Better than being a pit.
Is it CIPC?
The last word is committee.
Technically, it would be.
yes.
So it's the CIP committee or the CIPC?
Okay.
But it's not the CIPC committee.
It's the redundancy committee on redundancy.
I'm reading some grant stuff here, so this is important too. Okay, we'll put you on the agenda.
Okay,
Are
excellent.
we,
Any
You
further
happy?
discussion?
any other comment? Okay. We move on.
Next item, yeah.
Okay. Our next item is confirm our list of FY 27 capital requests, which
Is
is,
27?
Yeah, the fiscal year 27.
Okay, yeah.
I said it right. We sent it out wrong, but we got it right now.
Yeah. So I went through several of those emails, but I didn't go through all of them.
Okay,
Did anybody see all of them and whether or not they are just forward requests? There are no new 27 requests. I
oh,
know it was only supposed to be
So I
from 28 through 31.
why don't you explain what you did, Michael? That'd probably be best.
Okay, so this spreadsheet is everything that I knew of as of last week.
Yep.
In terms of what had been submitted to us for immediate and what during the conversation with like the school department, we were told, oh no, we can, that'll be a FY 28 need.
Right.
Okay? So I put that all down. I then moved out, just for my own, for discussion.
That's your time. From me.
What? Yeah, I know it's me.
Okay, I know I had it on my screen. I was trying to figure out why it wouldn't move.
those things that if they were, that, and I.
So
I put
everything on
X
this
budget-
gap
You're
is-
interrupting me.
Sorry.
Everything on X budget, X capital budget, were things that I moved out that they would not come from, in my mind, FY 27 or $28.
Okay, so let me clarify. We had mostly the school department, but we had a little discussion with DPW the last time, and some of the projects that they submitted for 27 would not be implementable. So they moved them we noted that they will get moved
To 28 or
to 28
beyond.
or beyond.
Correct.
Okay, but then we sent out requests, because it's supposed to be a 5-year plan for 28, 29, 30, and 31. And we got most of that information back.
Right, and I took Eric LeBeau's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I confirmed that there was nothing on our 27 list that he had moved out to 28 or beyond, other than the ones that he'd already identified.
But
So I
I'm looking for ones that are going in,
Nothing coming.
like fire department, and we got IPs, and.
Did you get public works?
Yeah, we got stuff.
We didn't get the 5. I didn't see the 3.
So Eric
Four
LeBeau's is the
extras.
only one that because his was most detailed.
Right,
I went through his, I haven't gone through the others.
Okay.
yeah,
So when we work for next week, we should get,
get this thorough an understanding of.
well, if there are any more that need to go in 27.
I don't remember seeing any more
Update.
emails beyond that. You sent out one recently.
My understanding from my conversations with the department heads was 27 was submitted. And then
Okay,
they, the long-term plans were different formats and everything else, so they redid 28 through 31. I saw fire, I saw schools. I think Esther responded, Kevin Hannon may have. I don't remember seeing Linda's, but if anybody's missing, I'll make sure you have it. Just let me know. Did you?
Yeah, I glanced through,
You didn't have it,
28, 29, I just don't know.
right.
which is fine.
Okay.
it's either fine or you could guess.
You're gonna update it every year.
Yeah.
And you had talked about the funding that you currently get supporting you from the,
Okay,
Right,
fine,
yeah,
yeah,
big
Yeah.
fund, yeah.
might go down.
right, declining down, and therefore, in the future, your needs will go up, perhaps.
Yep.
I took a quick look at the fire department and didn't see anything going into 27.
Okay.
But I didn't go through in detail each of every single one that they had submitted.
So if they followed Eric's
Yep.
instructions, there shouldn't be any 27 on
Correct.
that. Those
There shouldn't be,
It should
correct.
28 and beyond, because Eric was pretty clear.
But the only other question I have is, this is very short of public works. And I know Linda gave us did we confirm with Linda that this was accurate? She was here at the end of the meeting.
Thought we were gonna have one more conversation with her.
We are next week.
Right,
That's why I'm saying, before this gets published, everybody can think about it. Before it gets published, I only see 4 public works projects.
Can we send her a nudge email saying, do we have everything that you wanted to submit?
For 27?
Maybe we missed something, you know?
So
I think this
public works
might
will be
it,
sorted
but-
in 2 different locations. One is buildings and grounds,
Yeah.
and the other is as PW Public Works.
So let's just double check with her, what the heck?
We'll just double check, but I think it is good because AD is athletic department,
Yeah,
Administration.
that's administration, so that's her too. No?
No,
no,
that's
No, AD is all of the,
Esther and Kevin Hannon.
that's
and
building
the town
stuff.
clerk and
The town
Lawrence
hall.
Memorial
Yeah, that's all
Hall.
building stuff in Memorial Hall, et cetera.
Oh, but does the building stuff at Lawrence Memorial Hall go through?
That's buildings and grounds.
It goes,
Any so in the policy, it calls out that I believe 8%, which is something I have to work with the finance committee. I believe 8% of the available funding is supposed to go to technology. So technology upgrades, even if they're in a particular building, would come from Esther and Kevin Hannon, the IT director.
yeah,
So
so
if they need computers or they need AV equipment or new
to be,
cameras,
yeah. So,
outlets,
so oversimplified, Linda makes sure there's no water in here and the
Right.
environment is cool.
make sure the boilers work,
Yeah,
so we're all
yeah.
sweating.
Yeah, yeah.
Steve, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
But, to your earlier point, which is a great one, about, anything under 20, wouldn't be considered a capital campaign, and I'm looking on here at 11, you
Right.
know, and so the question is, is it actually, it looks like those are all of the same world. And so if it's in the same world in terms of upgrade outlets,
Yeah, it could be,
then is that considered a capital?
yeah, if we put those two together, you're at 19.8. So,
Yeah.
there's 20,000.
So-
So is that the exception then, that if it's one project, but here are the three components?
Yeah,
Might
so-
be a good way to
so-
get around that.
I
So
don't know.
in the long run, that's exactly the kind of thing that has to be looked at to say, is there ways to organize? We're getting this as the raw data,
Yeah.
which is intentional to be presented this way.
I gotta say, as the person with the lowest ones on that list, they should be bonded together, like, I was trying to keep costs down.
Like, put them together.
Am I gonna get penalized for keeping costs down?
Well, no,
No.
because they are still accepting 10,000 and above.
Uh-huh.
Is there something
Just
you,
need to go with something else.
But yeah, we can lump them together.
Yeah, that's the only, I really appreciate that quick, and I'm looking at this and saying, they're all of one.
that's what we were saying earlier.
Can I suggest that discussion belongs when we start going through
Right.
project by project?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're back, I
So
think,
Esther, one last
There is,
question for
particularly
you.
like, in particular, ask projects about how they're gonna get bid, do project, like if there's an
Yeah.
HVAC projects at 6 different buildings, maybe they can get bid. A lot of times they can't, because one might be on schools and that's different than, maybe town, but that is for when we're getting more into the nitty gritty of the project, that is brought up,
for today's meeting,
about how it's procured.
we'll
Before, but 1 second. Is there anything that you were, since you're new to the process, new to the town system and everything else, is there anything that you think you left off that you would like to submit for? Even if we can't get to it this year, it may be next year or the year after, but I don't want you to not put something in because you're trying to be cost conscious. If it's something that you think is gonna be needed, that has value that you need to move ahead with.
Yeah, well, I'm in a unique position from the other departments in that it's difficult to say what I should go to the town as a capital expense versus what should be the pay fund. So now it's low. It would be nice if I had clear criteria for that. Like, the things I'm asking for this time are in this building, that's pretty clear. But like our server.
Is there, and I don't wanna delay our meeting.
Stop me for a minute, but can you tell me quickly in a short thing what the pay fund is?
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, so, in order to have the right of way in town, the, cable provider has to pay a percent of revenue, I think we negotiated, which is 4.5% to the town for public education.
Right.
So it's based on, cable subscriptions in town, which are going down.
Right.
There's legislature to try to change it to streaming services or internet, and we're hoping those are gonna go through, but
Okay, so
Okay.
also, we're asking other departments though, even if it's funded somewhere else, to put it, if it's over 20, on this list. So that it can be in people's mind if
Right.
the funding goes down and we're gonna need a new server in 5 years and it's gonna be hundreds of thousands. Somebody's got the thinking that it's gonna happen. So you don't necessarily have to go back and do it for this year, I don't think, but I would think that way in the future about putting some of the bigger stuff that fund is paying for on this list, getting it on here, if it's over 20,000.
Because.
It would sure be nice if.
And it doesn't happen, it can be taken off.
Right.
Right,
And
so,
for the last 4 or 5 years, I would also recommend, I'm sorry, that you just, if you know, like, routers are good for 5 years or 4 years, like, in 5 years from now, just put in a dummy number so that we remember to think about it as time goes on.
yeah, that probably makes sense too, because if you're thinking about lumping things together,
Right,
if I'm not even on there.
right,
that's right.
right.
And so that's why I'm saying, if there's things that you know that are of need, and may or may not be as precise as you're thinking here, it's no harm in asking kind of thing, and we can, It's like making your list of presents that you want for a holiday or your birthday. If you get half of them, you're happy, right? So
Christmas list.
One more quick question. What is the size of the overall, that 4.5%? What is it to the town? What is, in rough numbers, what is it?
Was it like 198 last year, 170?
180 something.
180
Yeah.
something.
A couple hundred thousand.
But it's, you know, to Esther's point, it is declining because people are, you know, jumping. ship.
opting out, yeah.
Yeah.
Companies. And it's a statewide problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So they know, you know, that these are issues. But that's how BCTV
Yeah.
funded all these years. And ironically, you know, it was Lou and Peg that ran BCTV, so when we talked about PEG funds, it just seemed to fit. You know, but that's not really what the acronym is for. It's public education.
In Belchertown it is.
Was. They're retired now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting the list together the way you did. We really appreciate it.
Next.
Next is data handling, storage and responsibilities.
So I wanna stop right here, and confirm for our purposes, Steve,
Mhm.
for our purposes, these 38, 40, whatever number of projects that have requested to come in are the ones that we're gonna be working on. You don't have anything in your back pocket to, this has just recently come up,
So these are the FY 20, there's
FY 27s.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I
Okay,
know.
so these are the ones that we're gonna work on to prioritize, to understand, to kick out, to whatever.
Yeah,
And
nothing
we're
is
gonna
wrong.
nudge Linda just to make sure we got all of her info.
Okay, I think we do. We went through the detail of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, okay, now,
No, I mean, the FY 27 stuff came in a while ago, so.
right,
Yeah.
Right.
I think the departments have enough time.
Yeah.
to choose.
I thought she was missing somebody. I thought she didn't get one of her,
I'm
but then we added
who's she?
Linda.
Linda.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll find out.
Yep.
okay.
But, and I'll also find out if she put in 28 through 31.
In that case, then it's, the logical next step is discuss the data handling, storage and requirements, because right now, this is sitting on my personal thumb drive,
Mhm.
and it shouldn't be there.
So I'll talk to Kevin Hannon about that, see what we can set up.
So
Sort of-
I talked
And
with,
I mean,
I talked with Melissa and Abby,
Mhm.
and they can put up on number one, Capital Improvement Planning Committee does not have any kind of presence on belchertown.org government.
Do you want a presence there?
So we need to be listed there. Okay, and I've already talked to Kate,
Mhm.
Nadine,
NATO? Yeah,
Nadine. Talk to her about that, she'll move on that.
okay.
Once that's there, then, on the side, we can have a link that says, click here to see the FY 27 list as it works. That list can only, right now, according to Melissa and Abby, can only go up as a table, a non-calculatable, non-editable, non-anything table. And even if we get permission to access that page,
Mhm.
our access would be able to go in and manually change a 200 to a 100, but it wouldn't do any recalculations, it wouldn't do anything like that.
No, no,
Well, I don't
we
think
would
we
not.
want, I don't think we want it on the page. I'm sorry.
No,
Wait,
we want
wait.
it in our server.
We just want it on the server.
Time out, let me keep going. The only way to get it where we could have it, where we could use it, would be if we were given a slot, a seat, a something. And either Kate or Melissa, is gonna talk to Kevin about issuing us an Excel license or an Excel seat, or an Excel slot or an Excel something. But until that happens, we don't have any ability, no matter where this is, on town
Mhm.
to manipulate.
Right, yeah, at this point you would.
So there's,
So-
there's,
So there's,
But
two
Melissa,
separate
but
issues,
Melissa
I
and
agree,
Abby
there's two
might.
issues here.
this is two separate issues. One is we don't have the piece of software on our home computers that is the same as here. I think I'm no
So
longer
there's three
using
issues.
Excel, I'm
I
using
don't-
Mac.
So you
Why is
just,
that
there's
an issue?
three issues.
I thought you were bringing that up with Melissa and Abby potentially helping do some of the data management. But I'm asking, I think the select board and the town manager should be pushing forward with how do committees get like a Google Drive, and it's not, I'm using that as an example, it's not a Google, or a portal, or on the server.
Dropbox or whatever.
Can someone write permissions so that one of us could be working on the official document, which is kept on town control at home, because we're adding in the fire department, we're adding in other people's, and Mike right now is taking the brunt of the burden of adding all these things in, which one isn't fair, but two, then when we come here, if we've got a computer, we're plugging in jump drives, we're going in, and I know you've said every committee is doing that, and while, you know, I'm on a few committees that it is a pain, this is far more data.
Yeah.
And I think we need to either push to have an admin in the town do all this administration, or we need to get access.
Yeah.
To do it right.
Let me look into where they are with gaining that access, because you're not the only committee looking for some.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, finance committee, school committee, there's big documents.
We did set up a type of Dropbox for a select board where they can go and pull documents, so I'll figure that out.
Isn't part of the problem though, that's why I was saying, do we need to talk to Mark about, any kind of outside of open meeting law?
Oh,
That's the part where
So,
because I totally agree. It's more, how do we do this, and stay within.
yeah, that question was already asked and answered. I need to talk to Kevin about that and Abby, because we looked into that with your Dropbox. Yes, so yes, you're right, but we already have the answer. I just need to refresh my memory.
Is it we can do it, or do you?
I think we have to limit access on editing documents.
Which is exactly what you're trying to do.
But I think one person can. I just don't think.
But
So
then
how
it
does-
winds up being Mike again.
Right.
the challenge is that different from, say, the planning board, where you're approving a set of plans. Okay, so the plans come forward, they can be electronic or whatever, you can put them in a Dropbox. We can all take a look at them and say, great, they're fine, sign off and they move. What we're talking about is documents that have numbers in them that might change from meeting to meeting, because we're learning that the fire department needed this or the police department needed that. And so I understand there's limitations with regards to the open meeting law, but there has to be a way for us to access this document in between meetings, put new numbers in it, put it back in the Dropbox, and that not be a violation of open
Yeah,
meeting
so
law.
let me look into all that.
Right, like have one per, like,
We could spend all night.
like,
talking.
yeah, but only like one person can actually take it out, like, we can't be working on it at the same time. Not only would that be, well, depending on
Well,
the
that's
software.
what the reason I'm saying, rather than us talk about it, let's talk to the lawyers and say, this
Yeah.
is the goal, how do we?
And I think
There's gotta be other communities.
that's what I'm saying, let's find out what other towns have done to solve this
Because
problem.
electronic is,
So I think
everybody's going that way.
But that is a separate issue from the website, because the website.
Yeah, no, that's a.
So
laundry that-
here's what I was gonna say about the website. Until we have approved documents, like last year's document could be on the
I'll put a
website.
PDF up there.
Right,
Yeah.
but we shouldn't be putting interim in between whatever stuff up there.
And you have to be careful how you revise documents, and because everything has to be archived and
Yep.
public records laws.
Yep.
And then now there's a new thing where all documents have to be ADA accessible. If you have dyslexia, you need to be able to read it. If you're colorblind, if you're this.
Yep.
So there's all these different
Yep.
factors that have to go into it, but that is totally separate from what you're asking. I
Yep.
think the first thing we need to get you is access to a server. So-
Yeah, either that or we need to have an administrative support in a person in town hall that's an employee, does this work, and we just help with the decisions.
Yeah.
We're not inputting data.
And maybe that's the answer, Dan. I mean, once the 5-year plan is built and we're just updating it every year, it's not gonna be as big of a lift, and maybe we can figure
Right.
that out as well.
Right, next year it's gonna look a lot different than this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting from scratch on years 4 through 5.
Yeah, although this is year 2, so.
Yeah.
We should
It's a big lift.
Yep.
You're doing a great job.
I mean, hopefully the department heads used the format you sent it in, so it's a lot of cutting and pasting and not just.
Yep.
Transfer.
Well, and even next year, the projects that don't get funded,
Right, then you have to move.
they're gonna look at them.
Right.
We don't want them to actually redate them so that we can track whether or not, project submitted in 24 isn't you know.
He's in the queue and whatever else.
So,
Right.
let me get some answers for you. I think I understand what you need.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Confirm our next meeting date.
So we're gonna meet, a week from today. And have you contacted the department heads that?
I-
Okay,
Do you need, so,
so the intent of next week is to gather up all of the non-school, non-DPW people and say, tell us what this project is, why we need it, and how we prioritize it.
I will send that invite out.
So, and that's where this list of, here are the 43 projects that we're looking at becomes important. So the first one physically on the list is the IT network maintenance. So we need to understand.
Okay, I did send an invite out, but I'll remind everybody.
Okay.
Because I remember telling them
So
if they can't make it to let me know, and I'll present.
So
it.
next week, we're doing not DPW and schools,
Schools.
we're doing all
We're
the other
doing,
ones. Yeah.
we're doing
Yeah, yeah,
IT
yeah.
and BCTV and the town clerk and fire
And-
department,
All the
And-
departments.
Yes.
excuse me?
All the-
Yes. I don't have anything for the rec department, I believe,
Wasn't there one that went
Yeah,
in?
there was one.
There was one that came in.
for fiscal year 28.
Yeah,
25,
yeah, yeah.
27, no,
I don't think.
28, yes. There were a
Okay.
bunch for the pool and pool
Oh,
covers. and-
that was all next year?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was all later on.
Is there,
Okay.
is there a chance, are you gonna have time to work on it? Or I don't know if one of us can work on it, but getting the future years into the spreadsheet.
That'd be,
The I can do it, future years into I would put
Separate
it
tab.
into a different spreadsheet.
right.
So why aren't we having one spreadsheet?
No,
Why
no,
isn't
wait,
there a
wait,
master
wait. Here's what
Spreadsheet with a tab for each year on it?
that's what I was gonna say.
Because then if we move one, you know, if we're at a meeting and we say go from 27 to 28, there's a couple on here, we could just drag it down.
Here's what I was gonna say when you said that, which is that this is 27. Then we take, the next one would be 28, and that'll be the next tab, et cetera, and we move through it. I'm just saying we shouldn't add to this one if it's not 27. It should go.
Whoa, no, I'm saying add tabs.
Right.
Add additional,
If you want it on a single with year by year tabs going forward, I can do that. That's not a problem.
well, I think it would also allow us to do some analysis and summary. You know, I would then make a tab at the end even that could say, what are we forecasting? What's the trend line of projects going up, going down?
Right.
You know, in the future as the stuff gets.
Last year was this much, this year it's this much,
Yeah.
et cetera.
I want to go SQL.
But
All engineers are like this, he's not the only one. They're all data driven and
So do you need help? You know, is there something?
He probably does,
Because I can try to find you some help. I mean, I can.
At this point, no, the burden is not that great.
okay, well, let us know. Thanks. Somewhere.
Because I mean, I try, you know, I can find somebody that can do some data entry for a few hours, trust me. Yeah.
For right now, if I do, I'll let you know.
Okay. Is there any other subject? Is there an open comment? Because I
Sure.
have another discussion item before we.
So for the next meeting, we're expecting to have the department heads go through these one at a time and say, what is it and why do you need it?
Yeah, I'll remind everybody. So I have 3 things to do. I'm gonna check with Linda on her capital, make sure she presented everything for 27, make sure she submitted her out years.
Yep.
I'm gonna check with our IT department on getting access to the.
Data storage.
Store stuff.
Yep.
And I'm gonna remind the department heads to come in next Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
sounds good.
Terrific.
On a side note, and it's separate from this, but before we break up and leave and whatnot. In the operating budgets that are currently being done, is there an easy way to flag these specific items are actually in the future? Should be flagged as capital, even though we leave them in the operating budget. But they meet the criteria of more than 20,000, 5-year or longer, like, you know the criteria.
In the last.
Is there an easy way to flag those?
Well, in the last few days, we've met, and I met with Steve and Lisa on one thing, and Jill, and we were talking about some items, and from a funding avenue, there are ways to fund capital. There's some significant dollars out there, but the departments are gonna have to make, some tough decisions on what their priorities are. I mean, I think some of this capital is really a top priority for some of these departments. And, but.
I'm not asking to change any funding, not asking to change the budget, I'm not asking to change anything, but just put a little star, asterisk, next to a line item that says, buy a new building. And we're gonna do it out of our operating budget, go ahead and do it out of it. But just from a transparency standpoint, just to understand, do we have a big issue of capital being carried under operating, or is it a couple of one-offs here and there that aren't?
Well, just look at the discussion we had a little bit ago, and I hate to pick on Esther, but since it was up there, like take for instance cameras in this room.
Yeah.
Cameras now, when she wants to replace all the cameras, I mean, I wouldn't do this room separate from that room. I don't think that's appropriate. And all the Cat 6 cable that goes with it should all be part of that. They shouldn't be separate projects. That's project splitting and public procurement.
Right.
That's kind of against the rules.
Right.
And I believe it's not a bylaw, but the policy does remotely allude to that. And I'm not saying that you did that.
I mean, I can say specifically, I am upgrading the cameras, doing it piecemeal and doing it with our regular budget.
Right.
But you can
In
do
the future might not be.
Yeah, you can do it piecemeal. If you're replacing these few cameras this year and over there in 3 years, that's separate expenses, I would think.
And that's oftentimes something.
That's perfectly legit.
So, my knowledge of all the budgets, it's not widespread.
Okay.
I can tell you that, like enterprise budgets, the wastewater treatment plant, the transfer station, they have a lot of capital built into it. That's totally separate.
But it would be just from a transparency.
Well, those budgets are revenue driven,
Yes,
Right.
so they don't even really go through any.
understand, and they're beyond us, I
But
understand.
I think John's on here and we just had a conversation about firefighters here. They may spend $10,000 a year on firefighter gear, but they have to, you know that. If it gets dirty, they have to get rid of it. If it's,
And in fact, that's one of those that Chief Ingram mentioned for future years, is the gear.
So
But
there's,
those are reoccurring costs.
right, it's reoccurring, so it's not really defined as capital. But what you may see is, like Esther with the cameras or the chief of firefighter gear, they do a certain amount every year. But then all of a sudden, they may find that there's a new regulation and all of that firefighter gear is no longer useful, so they need 100,000. Well, then that becomes a separate capital request.
Right,
But then
right.
back in their operating budget, they still have enough to replace some every year.
Yep.
So those are things that, Lisa's right, they're reoccurring, So we can try to flag that stuff and, so we can have a better conversation about it.
My only thought was, if it's easy to flag, just to get some ideas to the magnitude of the issue. If it's a minor one-off something here, something there, that's one thing. If it's pervasive, then it moves up on the priority list of our addressing it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
Eric had something he wanted to bring up as well.
Well, no,
All right, well, a perfect example is just last night at the school committee meeting. Of course, they're moving from Cold Springs up to, well, they're doing building shifts, multiple grades. So they have to redo the bathrooms in Swift River in one of the wings. They got to put in smaller, lower toilets, lower sinks, hooks, and a lot of that. Really important to do that. Obviously, that's going to be more than $20,000. And, they're going to be using their operating budget for that. And they were talking about it last night. I mean, that is that something that should be identified? here?
So the point that I was gonna bring up, which I am very concerned about the school department. I don't think it was appropriate to have Jabesh Brook represented with the school department last time because we were getting all sorts of detailed information about Jabesh Brook only. Not that there's anything wrong with it, and not that Tom didn't have an understanding of everything that happened to Jabesh Brook, but I think it needs to come either from the school department or from Brian Cameron himself, because we need to see district-wide. Like Linda is presenting everything for Public Works. She's not sending Greg up here to talk about one piece and somebody else to talk about one thing, because we could be prioritizing stuff because we're more comfortable and have more information on this Jabesh Brook project. So that's one thing, and that's important. And they do fund quite a bit of capital out of operating. They do. That should be on this list, whether or not they continue to fund it out of operating, so that people can look at, should it be funded, should it be not?
Yep.
And I have a second question, which I didn't get a good answer to, but on these Jabesh Brook questions, we really need an answer on what's the expected use of that school. Is it gonna be 10 more years? Is it gonna be 20 more years? Because some of these added up is a bonding project, and you gotta commit to having that school for 20 years if you're gonna spend 5 or 10 or $15 million on that school. And that's a question that people need to be pushing the
I
school
would like
committee
to,
on, because we have a hard time prioritizing the Jabesh Brook. I mean, the grade reconfigurations is some projects that need to get done so they can operate.
I would like to support your idea that the superintendent come when we're covering the school budget and not, Eric LeBeau does a great job, but you come represent the town. We need Brian to come represent the schools as well. And we can informally invite him, but it needs to be done.
And there is $100,000 on there for Jabesh
Yeah.
Brook Middle School bathroom renovation.
No, he's talking about Chestnut.
I'm talking about Swiffer.
Oh, Swift River.
Absolutely, there's nothing, but
Yeah, but because the preschool kids are moving from.
they really should be notifying the capital improvement planning committee and we're paying for it out of capital expenses,
Right.
just for the purpose of tracking it. And if they're doing a lot of capital out of their operating budget, which they can do, and nobody can stop it.
No, some of it is the smaller stuff, and they're a big department, a lot of buildings.
But wouldn't it be nice to put together a bond that meets multiple needs within the town?
Exactly. It might even be more cost effective in the long run.
Of course it will be, but yeah.
And we've done that in the past, we've done a bond and it's been townly and school. I
Yep.
guess when I was answering the question about capital and operating budgets, I was talking about the town side, not the schools.
Yeah, but even schools,
But
and I'm not concerned about, I mean, we're trying to prioritize these, but we're also trying to put together information that'll help people do it more efficiently.
just like
or
we
more
talked
cost
about-
effectively, whether it's through bonding or.
FinCom and us getting together a couple times a year, I think we need to make sure that the superintendent knows that he's more than welcome to come talk to us. And in fact, we need his opinion on the school budget for multiple reasons. We're not just, fixing locks and putting up air conditioners. There's more going on here than just that. So,
They have a lot of needs, there's no question.
That's a big department.
no,
Budget.
Cognizant of the time,
yes, sir. Do we have anything else? I'll take a motion to
So moved to adjourn.
retire.
I'll
Retire.
I'll second it.
No. Any other questions? All in favor?
All right,
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
5:23.
Look at that. Under time, under budget.
That's what we don't want.
I be careful with the budget.
Okay, I want to tell you what Brian said, and this is the reason I brought that up.
Oh, hold on here.
Say what I'm gonna
Hold
say.
on, wait, hold on. I'm trying
But
to.
get your go-to tab there,
Oops. Go back, what are you doing? Man?
just exit out.
Yeah, I was gonna hit leave, but this mouse is jumpier than my,
There you go.